share with you a bit about Stampin Blends and their product compatibility. So in order to use your Stampin Blends, your alcohol markers, you do need a couple of items. And those two items that you need is Stampin' Up's Whisper White cardstock or your thick Whisper White cardstock and some Memento black ink. Now if you don't have these products, there's a quick and easy way of testing your product to see whether it's compatible with your Stampin' Blends. So let me show you on how we can do that. So I have with me here just some images that I've already stamped in Memento black ink. Okay, and I'm going to use my Stampin' Blend. First I want to check to see whether my ink is compatible. So this is Memento black, but you could use whatever. And I've got my color lifter pen here. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use the nib end, is I'm just going to scribble over the top of the outline of my image. And then if you can see that there, what you want to look for is whether it's going to bleed or whether it's going to feather or smudge. That's what you're looking for there. So if it's going to bleed or smudge, then this ink is not compatible with your Stampin' Blends. But as you can see here, I've got no bleeding, I've got no smudging, and so my Memento black ink is perfect for this technique or for using your Stampin' Blends. So the other thing you want to check now is to see whether your paper is going to work. So here I've stamped my image with Memento black ink. You can even just draw a pencil line or something if you wish as well, or a circle. It doesn't have to be with an ink. But I want to test my paper. So this is Whisper White, Stampin' Up's Whisper White. So I'm going to grab in my colour here. I've got lovely lipstick. And I'm just going to colour in my paper, my image here, right up to the line. Okay. Now, your alcohol markers or your Stampin' Blends will saturate the paper. Okay. So you need a paper that's going to be able to handle that saturation. So if I roll that over, you can see there how I've got all of that ink is just coming through the cardstock. So if I bring it up closer for you, what we're looking for is to see whether ink has gone out of the lines here. Now, even though you might use the tip of your marker right to the edge, if there's a lot of ink in your marker, which I know this one does have, it will tend to bleed past the line of your paper. So you need a piece of paper or cardstock that's going to take the saturation with all the ink. So that's just what you want to look for. So this Whisper White cardstock is perfect for using our Stampin' Blends. Now, what if you want to print out your images? Well, I've got some clip art here that I've printed onto some Whisper White cardstock. So I'm going to check to see if these printed images are compatible with my Stampin' Blends. So first what we want to check is to see my ink. Okay, I want to check to see if the ink, because it's printer ink, if it's going to work with my Stampin' Blends. So I've got my color lifter pen, and once again I'm just going to scribble over the top of those lines and see what happens. Well, it is feathering. It seems to be smudging or bleeding just slightly. I don't know if you can see that there. So there is a slight feathering issue, but it could be your ink too. So these will work really well with toner or a laser printer or anything, but I don't have a laser printer. So the other option, if you find that it does bleed, is that you can take your copy that you've printed off to a photocopy store with your own paper, making sure you're taking your Whisper White cardstock with you, and have the Photoshop print them off for you, and you'll find that their ink will actually work really well with the Stampin' Blends. So it's not that bad, but you can see that it does feather and bleed a little bit with that there. The other option that you can do is heat set your image before you use your Stampin' Blends once it's come out of the printer. Some inks too may take a couple of days to dry, so you might need to let this sit for a couple of days. Now this has sat here for about a week because I had planned on using this as a practice sheet for myself, which I haven't got around to doing yet. So Another thing you do is leave it for a couple of days. But yeah, so there's a couple of tips for you on testing your inks and your papers in utilizing your Stampin' Blends markers. So there you have it, the products that you need to be able to use your Stampin' Blends effectively, and some also solutions and options for testing your cardstock and ink if you decide to use an alternative ink or cardstock.